Geographers, let's wrap this up, shall we? Let's get this nice map of the U.S. population by square mile, right? Population density. That's what we got into in the last video, the second video here. But we're gonna get into, bring this in for a landing, making a map of the whole U.S. Yeah, we got these 48 states, but we're missing two other states. So we ended here. We got into in the last video the idea of population density. We discussed having that nice single hue progression of a light version of the color to a dark version of the color to show light, to dark being less to more. Doesn't have to be this green thing I picked, whatever you want, just make sure it still has that same idea. One color going from a light version to a dark version. All right, that's what we want to do. So from here, we're now ready to bring in these other states that we have, right? Make sure that we can see what's going on in Hawaii, what's happening in Alaska. And in order to do that, well, first I'm going to hit save just because I see I can't hit save. So I'm going to hit save. And then up here, make sure you select the insert tab, and we're going to put in a new map. And if you click this little down arrow, it gives you some options. We just want new map. So you can select it here, or if you just click on the icon, it takes you right to it. And it brings in this, just default map, same kind of deal with this garbage free amateur stuff. So let's remove that. Right click and remove. Right click and remove. I'm an ArcGIS Pro. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the state's attribute table. And so I've got this. I'm going to go back to the United States. And in fact, let's just, because I'm a little OCD with this stuff, let's zoom in. Let's make it fill the space. So we got this here, and I've got it exactly as I want it. And that's a key thing. I think I mentioned that in the last video. Make sure at this point, before we start doing what we're going to do here, that you have the colors you want. Everything just looks right. You're happy with this stuff, and you'll see why in a moment. But if I'm happy with this, all right, cool. I'm then going to right click on the feature class, so on states, and I'm going to select copy. All right, then I'm going to come over here to this new map, and I'm going to right click on where it says map, and I'm going to select paste. And look at that. Not only do I have all my states, but it's in the exact same symbology as it was over in that US map frame. So I don't have to go through and redo the same thing, right? That part's already done. So that's why I'm saying make sure you like the way this is looking, this whole vibe over here. Make sure you like that before you start doing this part. Okay, and I'm going to hit save because I did some stuff. And then what I want you to do is right click on map and go to properties. And within here, we're going to first go to general. And I'm going to name this one Alaska. I'll go ahead and hit apply so we can see it. And we're doing this because we're working with multiple map frames or data frames. I forget what the term is right now in this version of ArcGIS. But it's a case where it's very clear which one is which. And it's a case where I've worked on some projects where I've had, 10 of these things up here because I'm experimenting or I need to show another thing. I'm just trying to keep everything together, whatever the case may be. It's really nice to go in and properly label them so I don't have to guess and just keep randomly clicking. So I'm going to call that Alaska. But if I look at this, I see, you know what? We're back to dumpy, right? The US looks like garbage. That hurts my patriotic soul. I don't want that. So I want to get back in here to coordinate systems in our map properties window right here. Left click on coordinate systems like we did initially. I'm going to go back down to projected coordinate systems. I want to go to continental. So one we used before, North America. But this time, I don't want something that says contiguous USA. I'm dealing with Alaska, right? And fortunately, we have this ready to go. One specific to Alaska. So left click on this very first one, Alaska Albers Equal Area Conic, and go ahead and hit OK. And the end result, when we do it, is kind of odd, kind of weird right here, right? With what the US is doing. But the idea is this is for a map that isn't looking at the US or Hawaii, it's just Alaska. So if I hit shift to get my little magnifying glass, I draw my rectangle around here. If I'm simply looking at Alaska and interested in what's going on here and nowhere else in the US, then this is gorgeous. This is fantastic. Okay, so I have my map of the US, I have Alaska, and they both individually look great. Okay, there's that with projections and all that. It's hard to get it to get the same projection to make every single state that we have, and these ones that are off of the main part of the country to make them look right. So this is beautiful. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to do this again. I'm going to hit new map. You can probably figure out what we're doing. Remove these things here. I'll go ahead and just go into properties right now so I can see the difference. I'm going to type Hawaii and I'm going to hit OK. All right. I'll come back. In fact, I don't even think I have to come back. I think I can right click and hit paste. Look at this. I am so efficient and moving quickly. I now have the exact same feature class in this new Hawaii one. I'll go back into properties. Oh, whoops, I don't want to do that. Properties. I want to click on Hawaii, not states, but the actual map frame properties. I'll right click there, go to properties there, so I can go to coordinate systems. Same deal, projected, continental, North America. And of course, this time I want this one, Hawaii Albers Equal Area Conic. I hit OK. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, Alaska looks rough. This looks rough. I don't care because I'm zooming in right here, okay, to these islands. And one thing, when you zoom in here, you can see, well, this is a useful feature class with the states. The scale, it's a little rough when we zoom in to islands, right? This is not what these things actually look like. This has kind of a blocky, clunky feel to it. It's because, frankly, it's not the feature class itself wasn't digitized and created to be used at this scale. But it's okay. With what we're doing, we're going to make it work. So it looks a little horrendous zoomed in, but we're cool. We're okay. So go ahead and hit save. Now we've got all three of our map frames that we're going to use. Now let's make this layout. Let's actually make a map, right? So go into new layout. And for our options here, we're just going to stick with letter size. We're going to make a nice, small, simple map, but do it in landscape. And the reason why we're going to do that is because the contiguous United States, it's wider than it is tall. So it will fill this page better, right? So new layout and just the letter size, 8.5 by 11, landscape orientation. All right, now in here, we want to add a map frame. And we've got options. And again, this is where it's very useful to have these things labeled so I don't have to guess if it's not totally clear or obvious. So I'm going to initially select the US. That's going to be the main part of my map. And then my cursor has a little crosshairs thing. I'm going to click and drag and effectively fill up the page. I always give a little gap in there just if I'm going to be printing it or whatever. And with this, in looking at this, it doesn't quite fit in here, right? It's I gotta resize it, reposition it. The scale and the rectangle I drew didn't quite work. Not a big deal. All I need to do, I think we've done this before, is right click and hit activate. And I can use my little mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I could, use this fixed zoom in, zoom out. I can do the shift thing if I need to zoom in. Like right now, it's kind of off. So what I'm going to do is make kind of a bigger rectangle to bring it in here. Okay. And I want a little space underneath the country. No offense, Mexico, but it's the idea is I want to have some space for my other maps that I'm bringing in, right? For Alaska, for Hawaii. I'll center this a little bit. And again, once I got it where I think I want it, doesn't have to be perfect right now. But once I'm good there, you can do it a few ways. I'm going to go to layout and just close activation. But okay, I got my main thing right here. Okay, now I'm going to still back in insert, go to map frame, and let's add another one. Okay, and I'll just start with Alaska first, and I'll do that down here. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? And clearly not perfect, but we do the same thing. We can right click, we can activate, we can just kind of scroll out until we get it where we want it. We don't want to show the rest of the US though, right? So kind of adjust. Again, doesn't have to be absolutely perfect yet, right? But we get it where we want it. So on. And then once we're good enough, we hit close activation. Same thing, map frame, Hawaii. Draw, I don't know, put it here for right now. Whoops, hold on, I gotta activate. There you are. Okay, I'm gonna get that nice and tight so it looks right. Go to layout, close activation. Now this isn't perfect right now by any stretch of the imagination, but I've got my things in here, right? My inset maps, I'm gonna hit save because I got it, but you can kind of hopefully see where we're going with this thing, what we're actually trying to produce here is a map that's showing all the states in one space and doing so in an attractive manner. And it's going to be up to you to figure out exactly where these should be located. Maybe you could have it lower in the corner and have them opposite there. Maybe you want to kind of resize these things. And I can try to make them roughly the same size. I can have them stacked over here in one area. Again, up to you in terms of how you're going to do it. What's going to look good in here. Okay. One thing you can do as well is I could right click on where it says map frame. Let's see. Will that properties give it to me? I forget. Do I need? Yeah, here we go. So yeah, right click on this one, went to properties. It brought this thing up. This little paintbrush. I've got the border. I could change that color. It's kind of harsh, that black. I don't really like it, but I could make it a gray. So if I click out of it, it's a little less in your face. What I could also do, click back on this, is I could get rid of it, right? And I could just have Alaska out here. Oops. And it's a case where, nobody's going to look at this map and go like, I had no idea that Alaska was this floating island underneath Arizona. Nobody's going to have that thought in here. It's not that kind of map anyway. And honestly, if somebody does have that thought, there are bigger issues than your map. So feel free. You can get rid of those borders there. You can get rid of the same thing here with the entire US just to kind of have it, look a little cleaner, look a little more professional. Not everything has to have this box around it. So I'm leaving that part up to you. You make a nice final product where we can clearly see the contiguous United States. We can see Alaska. We can see Hawaii. They're using the same color scheme so that the legend, we only need one legend for these three maps, right? So that's a key thing, but it's up to you to figure out where exactly to place it. And feel free, you can absolutely Google, do an image search of, population maps United States. Look for examples of this stuff. Look at other maps and get a sense of how do they handle this? How do they, handle this issue and make it look nice and have everything look good? There's nothing wrong with that. That's not plagiarism or anything along those lines. In fact, it was Picasso, I believe, was the one saying that, good artists actually steal, right? They don't copy, they steal, meaning you go out, you see what other people are doing, and you make it your own, right? You take the things that work and you bring it into your process and turn it into your own thing. We're not copying, we're not AI. We're not trying to just copy and paste and be generic. No, we're trying to have our own voice here, but take from what other people have done. We all do it and we expect it to be done to us. That's how this works. So figure that stuff out. But then the key thing that we want to have is a legend of some kind and a title as well. So we know what we're looking at because this could mean anything, right? This could be crime rates or disease rates or, home ownership, like anything. It could be anything here. We have no idea what these colors actually mean. We haven't turned it into valuable information yet. So we need a legend. Okay. That's what we're going to insert here. So back in the insert ribbon tab, whatever, we want to go to legend. And the nice thing is it doesn't matter which map frame is selected. Currently it's the Hawaii one, but they're all using the same symbology here. So it doesn't ultimately matter. So I can just hit new legend, pick one. You can experiment with these things. Doesn't really matter to me, but I'm going to just find another kind of generic space and I'm going to put it in right here. All right. And I still have this properties thing going on. So it's referring to the legend in here. So on the right, I can start to change things. Number one, we never put legend at the top of our legend, so we don't want that. We leave the name legend, but it's down here. The title, we don't want to have legend. So I can just, get rid of that, click out of it, and that goes away. But you know what I could also do? Instead of having it say legend, I could say, population per square mile. And then it actually is saying what this is, right? Now we do have this very awful looking Pop 2020 and then per square mile right there. I don't really want that at all. I don't like the way that looks. We'll get rid of that one, but I could put it right here. The other option is I could just use this straight text thing here, and I could have a title that says the same thing, US population per square mile. Or I could leave this here. I could do up here, United States population density 2020. Okay, so I click out here. I can make this, again, I'm not going to ever use Tahoma because that's the devil. But I'll pick, whatever, something there for now. But pick something deliberate. This is the title. I'm going to make it big. I'll hit apply, see if that looks good. Work on, centering it. Do I like that? But what this accomplishes is I can have a title. It looks official up across here. I know it's population density. I also know it's from the year 2020. Right? So I accomplished that. Down here, I know it's per square mile, like how we got that density. It's not square kilometer or acre or whatever. It's population per square mile. So both of these are useful. And of course, I want to, if I used, a font for this thing up here, I want to use the same font down here, which you can get into the text symbol stuff. But the main thing is, just changing these different things like generic things like legend. The other thing, let's go through here. And I always have to click through because I rarely use this. I usually just blow it up or make my own in another thing. I've never really liked their legend stuff. Let me experiment. Is it here? Perfect. Okay, here it is. So on the left, Go over to the contents pane. We've got the legend, but actually click on where it says states. Okay. Then over here, uncheck layer name and headings. There we go, baby. So we get rid of those clunky things. This, the fact that it states, of course it states, and this whole pop 2020 thing. So we get rid of that so it looks good. The label we want, because if we get rid of that, like that's not helpful. So we do that, right? You can experiment with some of this stuff. Text symbol, of course, change it to whatever it's supposed to be, whatever you're using. But come up with a nice legend here. I think if I, yeah, it's just going to resize it. Let's go back to in here. Just column. Sorry, I'm a pro would be looking at this earlier and making sure it works. I ain't got time for that. Is it this one? No, that goes back there. Okay. Whatever. They're away. Well, all right. The idea, what you could do is you could, at a certain point when you're ready with it, like if you like this, fantastic. But you can also right click and convert to graphics. That's what we want. Okay. This is what I usually wind up doing by the end of this stuff. That's why I'm not too used to all this stuff here. When you convert it to graphics, what you're doing is you're severing it from this layer, right? So right now, if I were to like go in and say like, you know what, green I don't like, I'm changing it to a red scheme, it would update this. Once I convert it to graphics, it's not going to update it. I would have to go in and manually change everything. So you want to do that at the end, but you're welcome to experiment with that at the end. And one thing you can do, like you get to a point where you like it, hit save, convert it to graphics, kind of play around with it. So you convert to graphics, and then you probably have to do some ungroup stuff to further break it apart. But then you can move these different items in here to exactly where you want them, right? You could make a slick thing where all 5 of them are just lined up next to each other if you want to do that, if it works with the way your states are set up. We got options, but also this looks totally fine. Another thing I'm looking at, one thing we didn't do, is we have some issues when we get into the thousands up here, right? And then the fact is we don't have little commas separating every 3 digits to make it a little easier to read. So what we can do, since we're using this one here, we can come back into this area. And in fact, let's just go back into Hawaii itself. Will this bring it up? Let's go. Let's do this. We'll go properties. Actually, no, let's not do properties. Let's see. Let's force it back here. Okay. So just right click on states, click on the symbology tab. It's probably the easiest way to get to it. But okay. Sorry, I don't know if you're going to see a little blip there or not. Had a little technical issue with the recording, but ever forward, I think. And I might edit. This might be seamless when I edit it together, or it might be weird. Whatever. I'll bring it up. I'll make it weird, just in case you see something that's weird. But what we were doing before I had all this weirdness happen, was just getting into this spot. This should all be where you are. So we're back in the Hawaii map frame, just to kind of focus on just this feature class. We're in the symbology window here in the properties thing over on this right side. And what we want to do is show these little thousand separators. And the way we're going to do that is up here, all these options. We're going to go to advanced, I believe. I think it's in here, right? Yes. And so with this, just show thousand separators. If I check that, you see it automatically changes over here. Puts that in there, and it's just a little easier to read. And again, it's one of those things that it's just a nice little addition. Okay, so that's that. So I'll keep that there. Another thing I'm going to do, just because we can do it, is for rounding decimal places. I'm gonna select decimal places, not significant digits, and I'm gonna drop that down to 1. Okay, because this first one was forget what it said initially, but it was a few different things. Just having one decimal place, I think that looks good right there. I like the way that looks a little better. So we got some options in what we can show in here. And then in here, I'll hit save. But then if I go back here to layout view, what I'll see is in this legend that's based off of the Hawaii one, that brings that over, right? So it's a little easier to read. Okay? So, okay. Final thing, and then I just turn you loose. The final thing that you want to do on a map like this is somewhere on the map, and typically we do it just down in the corner, is you want to have some kind of data source information in here. So all you have to do is do this little text box thing. And because I've just got all this white space here, I don't need to have a little containing rectangle or worry about anything. I'm just going to put it down here in the corner. Okay. And what you typically would write would be source. And then you could have, something like a colon like this or whatever. But this comes from Esri. This is from one of their data packages that they supply. So I'm going to put Esri, ESRI, and then a comma. And this was from 2023 when I pulled this actual file or from that group of stuff. So I can leave it as simple as that, right? I can also, let's see, where is it? Right here. I can, cycle through these tabs to get here. Not only text symbol, no Tahoma, change it, but this one, I can make it smaller. I can make it 8 or even, I can go to like 7. So it's tiny, it's in the corner. It doesn't really matter until somebody's trying to see, from where did you get the data, right? I can make it, we'll say I can't do it with Tahoma, but if I do, say I'm dealing with the Swiss stuff, I can do like the italic thing, kind of just looks a little cooler, I think. Put it down in the corner, out of the way. And so it's a case where if somebody wants to find it, they can find it. If they don't care about it, they don't care about it. But it looks a little more professional. We trust this map. If they're being transparent, the person who made the map, if they're saying, hey, here's where the data came from, here's what I did, here's all this stuff, and I changed the coordinate system projection things, like I know what I'm doing. I'm an ArcGIS professional, right? So if we see that, we trust in the map. So that's what I want you to do. So I'm leaving this here. It's ugly. I see some things, I can change in a way to make it look prettier, but this is what I want you to do. Make this map, make it clean, get all the font matching, have that nice clean legend, have your source there, have a title, make it clear what I'm looking at. And then once you're done, hit save, but then also go into share, export layout, and save it as a JPEG, save it where you can find it, and this is what you're going to be turning into Canvas in the appropriate spot. You dig? All right, fantastic. Excellent work, geographers. I'm so proud of you.